So, I read D&D's most controversial official book. And I mean actually controversial. There's D&D books that everyone hates, or that people at least agree are deeply problematic, but there's nothing better for starting an argument than Dark Sun. So what is Dark Sun? Why does it make D&D players kill each other on the streets? Dark Sun is a campaign setting that dropped in 1991 for D&D 2nd edition, but the version we're looking at today is from 2010, released for D&D 4th edition. There is no 5th edition version of Dark Sun, and according to Wizards of the Coast, there never will be, because it is too problematic. At least that's what they said. We'll get to the drama around all of that soon. But as for the book itself, it's a 224 campaign setting, kind of like Eberron, to let you set your games in the world of Dark Sun. This is a land of blood and dust, where tribes of feral elves sweep out of the salt plains to plunder lonely caravans, and selfish kings squander their subjects' lives, building gaudy palaces and garish tombs. This bleak wasteland is Athas, and it is my home. If you're thinking of Tatooine or Dune, you are bang on the money. Athas is a desert planet wasteland. It's also full of monsters, both literal and figurative, in the form of raiders, slavers, and savages. But perhaps most importantly, in Dark Sun, arcane magic defiles the planet. To cast an arcane spell in this setting, you gather power from the world around you. This causes plants to wither and die, and wrecks animals and people with crippling pain. It is possible to cast spells safely and with care, but there is more immediate power in ripping the magic out of the world around you at the expense of living things. Athas wasn't always a wasteland. It was a world like ours until reckless exploitation through magic killed it. There's also no gods. Gods of old are either dead or have completely abandoned Athas as a lost cause. This means there's no temples, churches, clerics, or paladins, unless your GM makes a specific exception for you to play one. Classic D&D species have also been reimagined, and because this setting is #edgy, that means we get edgy elves, who are raiders, edgy halflings that hunt and eat other sentient beings, and Goliaths that were purpose-bred to act as mercenaries for the Sorcerer Kings. Oh yeah, there are Sorcerer Kings in this setting. They are the bad guys. They've held power for centuries, and they wield magic brutally at the expense of the world for greater power and immortality. The Sorcerer Kings rule over their city-states with the aid of lesser defilers called Templars. Templars are the muscle of the state, who terrorize the populace in the name of keeping the peace. Needless to say, the life of slaves in Dark Sun is awful, and there are loads of them in the big cities. But even for those just above that strata of society, it sucks. Life is horrible for basically everyone apart from the ultra-elite nobles, Templars, and Sorcerer Kings themselves. There is only one free city-state in the world, Tyr. Outside of these isolated city-states, you have the endless dunes, monsters, and raiders. Life here is hell in a completely different way. That's enough lore. I promise all of it is important for understanding why this book is so controversial, but let's take a moment to talk about the gameplay elements to Dark Sun. Hey, bro, you wanna play some D&D? Oh, yeah, great! Assume the position. No, please! Do it. Yes! You can't play D&D without a table, and the ultimate table is mad! Can't we just use a tabletop table? Tables don't talk! But also, what's that? Tabletop tables are the ultimate way to elevate your game nights. Stunningly crafted, portable gaming tabletops with magnetized mounts and tons of customization options. Far more affordable than a dedicated traditional gaming table, you can now open up spaces for amazing games anywhere to turn any location into a stunning game table at a moment's notice. It's foldable, portable, reduces clutter, easy to set up, extend, and expand, and comes with a custom travel bag. It's your game night's bag of holding. TTRPGs are already awesome, so give them the setting they deserve. Tabletop tables are out now on Kickstarter in both lightweight Hexlite and Relic Walnut models, and all backers will receive at least 10% off the retail MSRP on everything, plus free shipping to every backer in the United States. Grab yours today using the link below. elevate your games with Tabletop Table. There's two new species introduced in this setting, the three creen and the mull. You probably already know the three creen because they're in 5th edition as well, and the mull is the name that Dark Sun gives to children of dwarf and human parents. I know a lot of y'all are breathing very heavily right now. We will get to all the controversies soon. There's also new background options and lore for 9 classic D&D races and 16 kind of subclasses in the book. I mean, they're called themes and paragon paths and subclasses, but if you're a 5e player like me, just imagine it as containing 16 subclasses. It's basically what it is. They've got things like the Arena Fighter, Animist Shaman, and Sorcerer King Pact Warlock. There's more mechanical stuff in there as well, but it's all 4e mechanics. The point is, there's a lot of player material here. A lot more than in modern D&D campaign settings, actually. This book makes Spelljammer look like a doodle of a monkey on a piece of damp toilet paper. There's also maps of the various cities, key locations, histories, NPCs, etc. Regardless of what the contents of this book are, it's easy to see why some people love it. It is, objectively, as a product, good. Okay, that's enough about what Dark Sun is. I want to talk about what Dark Sun means. This is the part of the video where I go feral, because as a writer myself, literary analysis is my crack cocaine. Buckle up, we're gonna dish on racism, hierarchy, TTRPG industry drama, and backlash. So what does Dark Sun actually mean? Well, the first big theme of the setting is a pro-environmentalist one. This is a setting where a tiny proportion of the ultra-rich and powerful ruin the entire world for everything. Every animal, every plant, every person is completely screwed over by the greedy super rich. Dark Sun is about climate change. It is a critique of billionaire industrialists. Big oil magnates like Harold Hamm, who actively campaigns against renewable energy sources, are real. They exist, they kill our planet for money, and Dark Sun says they are bad. If this all sounds weirdly political, you're right. Remember that all fantasy books aren't really about fantasy, they're about our real world. The fantasy stuff is just a reflection to tell a real story. And we're going much deeper into controversy town than just climate change, because Dark Sun does something that modern WotC books doesn't. It has opinions. Dark Sun is aggressively anti-authoritarian and kind of anti-cop. The police in Dark Sun are the Templars, and they are presented as horrible, corrupt, terrifying villains. Bullies and enslavers who constantly break the law, lie, steal, and oppress their citizens. They are not there to protect the community, they are there to threaten you, enslave you, and ultimately kill you if you challenge the social order. Dark Sun says that state-sponsored violence is bad, but violence isn't the only way leaders defend themselves. Dark Sun also explores how leaders maintain power through restriction of information. Sorcerer Kings in Dark Sun keep their subjects illiterate and keep information on the past a secret. This is how tyrannical governments work, undermining or killing intellectuals and erasing or rewriting history. You can look at the persecution of intellectuals in the Soviet Union, for an example, a state that failed in 1991, the same year the first Dark Sun was released. Dark Sun also has a pro-religious theme. This is a world that is awful, and look, there are no gods. Religion is dying out, at least in America where this book was released, and Dark Sun seems to say that's bad. Look what happens when we give up on God or when God gives up on us. Now here's the really important part. You might disagree with some or all of Dark Sun's ideas. You might think that traditional religions dying out is a wonderful thing, or that the police are a force for good. You might be a climate change denier. You might think that oil billionaires like Harold Hamm, who undercut democracy for money at the cost of human life, are great. You might disagree with all of its points, but Dark Sun has you thinking about it. This is a book that says something, and that makes it art. And we'll talk more about that later, but now it's time to talk about the really big controversies. Coming into this book, I was expecting it to be bad, and upon going through it all, there is definitely stuff here that would not fly today. At the very least, this is the stuff that makes you go, The halflings, for example, are described in a way that is a blatant pastiche of the classic cannibal natives from old pulp adventure novels. Sailors go to a desert island looking for treasure, but there are cannibal natives! Ah! You know, 1930s era King Kong. basically. And yeah, those books are very old and kind of super freaking racist, basically just running back the rhetoric that was used to justify the genocide of any number of peoples all over the world in colonial times. Brutal, head-hunting, cannibalistic, uncivilized monsters with a little bit of the noble savage stereotype thrown in. This is how people really did view other human beings and justified their murder, enslavement, and conquering. This is a very complex topic, and I know that. I'm not saying that you're a racist or a bad person if you played a halfling in a Dark Sun game. There is nothing inherently wrong with having a group of people who eat other people in a story, but I think most people today would understand it's best framed as a cultural thing, not a racial thing. You could also have vegan halflings, right? I mean, there are sentient people who are capable of choice, and honestly, based on the rest of their lore, vegan halflings actually makes a lot more sense for this setting. The whole cannibal thing is kind of undercooked, if you'll pardon the pun. Mull are the other species people often point to as problematic, and this one is interesting. Mull are half dwarf, half human, and on the surface they're just kind of badass. They're actually taller than humans and stronger, and they have a lack of body hair due to the evil that ravages the world. And as a bald person, I can confirm that is why people go bald. There's just like too much evil in the world for me to bother having hair anymore. Okay, jokes aside, there's some stuff here which is very sus. Most moles are slaves because their size and strength makes them useful as slaves. So you have this mixed race people who naturally occupy the lowest strata of society. And a lot of the lore talks about how a good mole or a useful mole is just someone their owner can get the most out of. Critics also point out that the word mole clearly comes from the word mule, which is the name for a half donkey, half horse, and has been used as a racist term for mixed race people in the past. Seriously, calling the mixed race people mole is cringe AF. It gives major J.K. Rowling Cho-Chang vibes. I will say, however, that generally I would like to see more mixed race representation in this game. I hate that the 2024 rules basically just removed mixed race species and saying you have to pick one. My nephew's a mixed race. It is laughable to even suggest that they would have to choose their white or their black heritage. It's crazy. They obviously have full claim to both. Anyway, I don't know about the mole. The name would definitely have to change, and the slavery element to their backstory would require evaluation. Slavery is a huge part of the Dark Sun setting, but I don't think any group of people should be explored through the lens of their subservience to others, be they Mull or indeed Goliath. Yes, Goliaths have the same problem. They were a species created specifically to serve the will of the Sorcerer Kings. That's kind of cool as an idea. You could play a Goliath who throws off the influence of their Sorcerer King and burns the city to the ground in revenge. But again, the whole identity of the species in the book is built around their submission, which is just kind of limiting, if nothing else. It doesn't need to be censored or anything like that, but the entire book and setting would be elevated by a wider exploration of these groups of people. And look, we've obviously skirted around the topic long enough. The big problematic element to Dark Sun is the slavery. Slavery is the worst thing that human beings do to each other, and in the world of Dark Sun, it is everywhere. So many people raise the question, should WotC publish books with slavery as an element at all? Can DMs be trusted to run a game with slavery as an element? Should you be allowed to play in a game with slavery in it at all? This is a very personal thing, but I think the answer is yes. I think the way I feel is that no topic should be completely censored when we're talking about art. But hey, I've been wrong many times. I'm learning and growing, and my opinion might change. There is a significant group of people who truly believe that these topics should be totally censored from the game. Slavers, fascists, cannibals, this is a school of thought that says no, never, not under any circumstance. Not even if those people are presented as the bad guys that you need to stop. Not even if it happens at other people's tables that I am not a part of. It's harmful, full stop. And I'm not having a go at you if you feel that way. These topics are serious and complicated, and anyone who claims to have the definitive answer is probably talking crap. Maybe y'all will convince me differently in the comments, but for now, I don't think we should stop making art about uncomfortable topics. Slavery happens. It happens today. Cargill are a US-based company who perpetuate and profit from child slavery. Why isn't it talked about? Well, because they have a lot of money, and they hide the slavery, and it happens a long way away, and they lobby politicians. But here we are talking about Cargill because of Dark Sun. Maybe if more people engaged with the topic, perhaps through the stories they tell, they might research and see that companies like Nestle, Hershey's, Mars are all child slave profiteers, and maybe stop supporting them. My current perspective is that we haven't solved slavery at all, and until every animal and person on this planet lives free, it probably needs to be a force in our stories. That said, I totally avoid slavery in my games and in my stories because I don't think I would enjoy that at all, but I trust you to explore those themes if you want. Like anything, it can be done well and it can be done badly, but I'm sure you could do it well. You are awesome, keep killing it, you sexy, sexy minx. There are also good guys in Dark Sun, presented as the alternatives to the fascist leaders and the enslavers. The Veiled Alliance are abolitionists, environmentalists, and resistance fighters. They are the good guys. To my reading, Dark Sun is very clearly anti-slavery. You're very clearly supposed to ally with the Veiled Alliance, kill the fascists, and liberate the peoples of the world, so I guess in that respect, I agree with it morally. Dark Sun has some very serious problems, but I do believe it could be remade in a way that addresses them, not just censors them, and remain just as powerful. Many of the issues it raises are equally as important today as they were in 2010 or in 1991. With that in mind, Dark Sun can't be remade. Absolutely no way. The reason is simple. Dark Sun is very challenging. Dark Sun has a point to make. Dark Sun is art. It's art that you might hate or disagree with, or that is sometimes painful to engage with, but it's art nonetheless. And today, WotC have zero interest in making art. They will not engage in anything political, because that would split the audience and mean less money. Criticizing climate change? You can't do that, mate. Big Oil play D&D too. What if they leave the hobby? Also, Hasbro is a billion-dollar company that grants multi-million-dollar bonuses to its elites and has its own history of child labor and exploitation. I'm sure they don't want to associate their brand with forced child labor any more than it already has been. Being evil rule number one, don't remind people how evil you are, right? I'm also certain they don't want to publish books that are built from the ground up to criticize exactly the type of people that they are. That's one reason, of course, but here's a much more charitable one, and that is the completely understandable terror of remaking Dark Sun and getting it wrong. I don't think the WotC designers think mixed race people should have to choose one heritage and stick to it in real life, but I do think they are terrified of adding mixed species to the game and messing it up, and then the internet would completely explode on them. And I get it. If you get Dark Sun wrong, working at the world's biggest TTRPG publishing company, the result is brutal. You are fired immediately, like people were over the Hadesy, and you're fired in quite a humiliating way. You're called a racist, and everyone already kind of hates Wizards of the Coast, so they are not going to read your content charitably. You are just forever the asshole who made slavery into a fun little game mechanic. The designers also aren't independent. If I make a political point in a video, like by saying climate change is bad, sure, I might lose some supporters who love climate change, but nothing really happens. However, the designers at Wizards of the Coast are ripe to be thrown away at the drop of a hat, as they have been in the recent past. They've kind of got to walk on eggshells all the time because they're not free. Not to mention, they are nice people who don't want to upset people because they're nice people who don't want to upset people. People do get upset by this type of content, and doing it wrong can do real harm, and getting Dark Sun right would be a hell of a challenge. And what's the reward if you do get Dark Sun right as a WotC designer? Your pay is the same as if you made any other book. And what's the punishment for failure? Total ostracization from the industry, death threats, poverty, hatred, and worst of all, you might do real harm to real people. So it's difficult, and it's scary, and I don't blame blame them for noping out of Dark Sun altogether. Hell, guys, I've got a note on my script right here that I wrote last night saying, hey, maybe I should just scrap this whole video. It is terrifying to share this kind of content and give a real perspective on real things, and I'm just making a YouTube video. Imagine making an entire book, which you would then have to stand behind and defend. The downside to this approach, of course, is that contemporary WotC content is bland and ultimately meaningless. It's the reason Dark Sun is passionately loved by its supporters, and literally no one on Earth cares about contemporary D&D lore at all. I will add here that although the D&D team have my sympathy not remaking Dark Sun, that's not an excuse to not make valuable content at all. They could make mixed species a thing in D&D. They could engage in real important topics and contribute to improving the world. Tons of big TTRPGs deal with super dark subjects, Call of Cthulhu and Vampire the Masquerade, etc. And they do so elegantly, and people seem to like it, and it doesn't seem to have done any great societal harm. I would personally like to see content that means something from WotC, even if it isn't Dark Sun. So despite some cringe elements and stuff that I wish was handled better and would absolutely need addressing if it was published today, I think Dark Sun has important messages to tell. You might not agree with the arguments that it makes, but it does make you think about them, and that's what art is all about. I think Dark Sun is quite valuable for its pro-environmentalist message, if nothing else. I won't set a game there, but I'm grateful it exists. And if you made it this far, I guess we both agree that it's kind of interesting, at the very least. I've spent a lot of this video talking up Dark Sun, so I'll add here that while it is good, it's still not as good as the best third-party campaign settings you can get. Obajima, Ryoko's Guide, Drakenheim, Grim Hollow, there's plenty of great ones that have been released in just the last few years, which contain tons of information for your 5e games. Honestly, I'm glad I engaged with Dark Sun. It gave me things to think about, and maybe I'll change my mind on them, as we all discuss them very respectfully in the comments. And look, if you were hoping for a video a lot more lighthearted and bitchy, don't worry, I've been reading the Book of Vile Darkness, and by God, it's awful. So that'll be a fun one. I donate 50% of all my YouTube ad revenue to charity. The remaining 50% pays for editors and artists along with the sponsorship money, which means this channel is entirely funded by your support through YouTube memberships and on Patreon. If you want to make content like this possible, please consider supporting. I release tons of awesome D&D content on Patreon every month, including new subclasses, new species, and ready-to-play adventures. Please check it out at the link below. We're trying to get to 2,000 paid supporters on Patreon. If we can reach that number, then we can donate 100% of the ad revenue from all YouTube videos to charity, which is like the dream. Also remember to like and subscribe, check out other videos on the channel, and yeah, that's all I got. I'll see you next time.